So. A recent Globe and Mail blog reported that women are more likely than men to get bored in a marriage. A series of Canadian studies show many once intimate relationships have lost their luster. They're dull, they lack fun and conversation, and are devoid of romance. Once a month or so, Dr. David McKenzie joins us to talk about such dilemmas. He is a couples counselor and sex therapist. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. David McKenzie back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, study says
yes,
women are more likely to get bored in a relationship than men or in a married relationship.
This was a study done by the Journal of Psychological Science, and they found that women after marriage, about the 6th year or so, tend to get bored in their relationship. Men will get bored prior to marriage if there are no nuptials coming down the line, if they haven't tied the knot. But after marriage, it's more women that get bored. And you can begin to understand that, especially if they have a child. We were talking about this before we went on air. A lot of women will give up a career, they're home all day, they start to feel brain dead, and they have a husband who's coming home late, involved in the career, providing a nice lifestyle, and they start to disconnect, and she starts to feel as though she's raising the kids on her own, she's keeping the house while he goes and plays golf and does his thing with his work. And so there starts to have this disconnect in the relationship. And they've lost the fun, the vitality that you were talking about in the introduction, and it becomes drudgery, it becomes dreary. And so you'll often find women feeling that more than men.
But not dreary for him, because he's still playing golf, playing soccer with the boys, going to the bar after work.
Yeah.
Not always. Sometimes many men come home and take care of the babies and do what they do. But
actually, most men do, to be honest about it. But there are some who are still, living the single life while their wife does the work at home. What you'll often find, what I've found in my therapy practice, is that you'll have a man and his wife is in collusion with this. They enjoy the nice lifestyle, the good income, it provides for her, blah, 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 blah. But he's having to work till 7, 8 o'clock at night. He has to go out on golf trips and eat dinners out to keep clients coming.
Of course he does.
Well, no, I'm honestly, there are a lot of men out there that would rather be home playing with their children and watching TV with their wives than having to entertain people from across the world.
So how do you come together but remain apart? And by that I mean you have a life, he has a life, and you have a fabulous life together. So when you come home, you're interesting.
Yep.
Or when he comes home to you after your day with the kids, you're still interesting, and he's interesting, and that zizz and that connection is still there, and you're happy when you see his car, or he's happy when he sees your car driving the driveway.
It's called scheduling, and it's called creating distance in your relationship. So if there's too much intimacy, it kills passion. And a lot of couples simply do not go out of the home. Like I'll say to couples, do you have a date at least once every 2 weeks just with each other, not with friends or family? Walk the seawall. It doesn't have to be expensive. No, well, we have a date and we rent a movie and watch TV. Not good enough. It's got to be out of your common place where you live, move, and have your being. Make it exciting. Go out of the home. Do something exciting. Every week, each of you should have at least an evening or an afternoon where it's your mental health time. You can go out and do what you want. It's creating distance, creating interest in the relationship.
So before the marriage, the couple played golf together on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Yes.
Once they were married, he played golf, she stayed home. What's that about?
Well, there seems to be a lot of bias towards the him. He's the culprit and she's the poor little woman at home. Yeah, there does tend to be, there are more men who tend to do that, oftentimes because they're out in the world working and bringing the income in, where there are a lot of career women who have chosen to stay at home and look after their children. I guess there's this tendency in me that I don't want to vilify males as though they're the big bad people and women are being mistreated by them.
No, not at all. It's a female choice.
That's exactly right.
Totally.
And a recent study out of Quebec showed that, and Sweden showed that women want to marry a rich man so that he can take care of them so they can be at home raising children. In Sweden, they did a massive study of women and found that women really want the traditional role of staying at home and raising children, keeping home.
Right.
So, but they want a good income for that. So,
well, apparently the new Duchess of Cambridge doesn't necessarily want to go out and have a job. She wants to be with William
sure.
and become a mom.
Sure.
Well, that's what the press says.
Sure,
we don't
sure.
know for sure.
Who knows?
But she really wants to have an ordinary life for now.
Yeah.
Her choice. But it is, I think boredom is an individual problem. Somebody doesn't make you bored. You are bored,
well,
or you're not
But
bored.
the relationship can become tedious and boring, and it becomes staid, and nothing exciting happens. And I say to couples, you need to sit down, get the calendar out of the month ahead, and schedule the times you're going to be with each other, schedule the evenings you want to have sex with each other. In long-term relationships,
Really?
yes, the days are
Ew.
over. Well, no, it's not ooh. The days are over of meeting the stranger across a crowded room and having sex in your car. I mean, the long-term relationship.
But that would spice up the relationship.
Yeah, well, I'll tell them once in a while, go out in the car and after a date and have sex in the park with a police officer down the road.
We're on the way home from the party.
But those, I got to say, in long-term relationships, that's a standard higher than angels can keep. In long-term relationships, sexuality takes on a different experience and understanding than short-term relationships.
President Barack Obama and Michelle were on Oprah a couple days ago, and she said, you know, at first it's really easy and sparky, but when the going gets tough, and it will in every relationship, and you have to work things out, that's when you really understand whether or not this person you're with is your friend, somebody you are truly interested in, because we're all interested in the beginning. Aren't we?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
mostly.
In the first, for people to judge their relationship based on the first 3 to 6 months of hot sex and so forth, they're really walking on a tightrope here. You cannot judge a relationship before about 2 years has elapsed, and then you begin to see how you're going to mesh with each other.
Yes, it's always curious. People who say, we were friends for years. I knew him for years, and one day or 1 week we fell madly in love. It's always surprising to me that if you didn't have that zizz in the beginning, that after all these years of being true friends and having lots of fun together, you decide you want more. I know it happens.
Yeah, I've seen it happen too, but rarely. Most of the time, I mean, Gottman says that friendship is the flower of the cake of marriage. If you haven't got a friendship, the relationship will not be healthy. I haven't seen many people who have a long-term 4-year relationship and are friends and suddenly fall in love. I know it's happened, but I don't see much of it.
Yeah, but he gets me, I get him.
Yeah, sure.
That's so important. Ice-T said it recently in an interview, the rapper, that the right man comes along for a woman, it's the right time. If it's the right time, the right woman comes along for a man. Do you believe that? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
If a man comes into a female's life and you're mad about him, you'll drop things and go there. For men, he said it's different. For him, it had to be the right time. You know, it wasn't about the right woman. It just had to be the right time for him. He was not ready to settle down, and then, as luck would have it, when he was, the right woman came along.
Well, I have a little different theory. I you know, accept his experience of that. But I think when we're at the right time psychologically, when we've done enough work on ourselves, I mean, I've seen it over and over. A woman will come to me, and she's been attracting men who will abandon her and leave her until I get her to work on her inner issues and her childhood issues and all that stuff that attracts abandoning men. When she starts to get it together, she's sending out subliminal signals that only the subconscious can pick up, and she starts attracting men who are decent and won't do this to her.
Okay, but do you think males think, you know, I'm 30 years old or I'm 35 years old, it's time I settle down. So I'll find someone to settle down with. Now's the time.
Well, 77% of men are looking for a marriage partner when they date. And that spans, yes, that spans all 20s and 30s and 40s. So it's not like women are out there looking for marriage partners, men are too. And so there are many men ready to settle down at 25, 26 years of age. Before that, I'm a little dicey about it. Women are ready to settle down at 22. Men,
as you should be, a little dicey about it. And we can't generalize, and you always say that.
That's
you know,
right.
you can't generalize. Everybody's certainly different. But when you're doing the romancing, you're in the dating game, it's always a question whether you should play hard to get, wear your heart on your sleeve, tell all, because you know how you feel inside, but very often you think, if I tell him I love him madly on the second date, he'll leave. Well, he'll run.
An article in the Scientific American recently actually backed up the idea that if you play hard to get with a person you know who likes you, that person will even like you more.
Okay.
If you play hard to get with somebody that you're not sure of or who doesn't like you, you won't end up getting him or her.
Well, he'll let you go away because he doesn't care.
He doesn't really care. But there is some scientific data to back up the idea that, in fact, they took college women, and I had a lot of my colleagues dish the methodology in this,
Right.
but they showed them Facebook images of men and said that these 4 men are interested in you, but these 2 men they're not that interested. And the women obsessed with the men who are not that interested, because they're thinking to themselves, well, what is it about me he doesn't like? And the man's always on their mind, so they think if he's always on my mind, I must like him. So you know, the one running away is always more interesting than the one chasing.
Right, and every female would wonder, and probably every male would wonder, how do you know if they really are that into you? Right? Do they call you a lot? Do they sparkle when you're in their presence? Do they send you flowers? What?
You'll pick that up instinctively.
Energy.
Energy, yeah. Just the tone of their voice when they answer the telephone, various ways in which they show interest in you, invite you over, take you for a date, or you know, show initiative. In most cases, women still want the man to initiate a phone call. Half of all women do, or over half. Half of all women, about 40% of women will insist on paying for their own way in the first date, but after that, 80% want the man to pick up the check.
Really?
So, yeah,
or at least offer.
Offer, yeah, that's right. So there's still this traditional thing going on. They want the man to take the initiative. And so, I mean, I think it's probably important that on a first date, a woman probably wait for the man to make an initiation. But if after 3 or 4 days have gone by and she really wants to hear, I think it's totally acceptable to phone a man up and say, what's going on? I'm interested.
Sure. And where's the line? You say something like, I really like being with you. That seems safe.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed our last date. I was hoping that maybe we could, and if he says, well, I'm really busy and I'll be in touch with you, and then you know it's. But if a man says, absolutely, I'm sorry, and he does initiate, then you know that there's interest there.
Well, in social media, there's a lot of texting going on, as you know, new age.
That's right.
And you're not sure whether you should, so they texted you. Does that mean you should text back, or should you wait a couple days, or should you wait 2 minutes? Right?
No, don't wait 2 minutes. You know, I've never been one, even when I was single, I've never been one into games, you know, that I'll wait 3 days and make him like me or make her like me more.
Right.
And that plays with some people who are into those kind of games. But for the most part, who wants to be with somebody who's into game playing?
Well, nobody, I don't think. But you have to trust your gut. But then there's a part of you that's a little strategic.
Absolutely.
You know, you think, gee, am I sending him too many emails? Or
you don't
am I
want to do
texting him too much?
Don't want to do
am I driving him crazy, really?
No. Yeah. Respond to an email that's sent to you within, I think, a decent amount of time, say 3-4 hours, or even right away. But don't be the one constantly texting back and so forth.
Not too many.
Not too many.
Keep count.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you show too much interest, the interest starts to wane. You know, the person's desperate.
Well, elusive is always good, because then they wonder where she is, or wonder where
and
he is.
it's on their mind.
Exactly, and that's always good. Dr. David McKenzie, our guest, will return. Dr. David McKenzie, our guest. He's a couples counselor and sex therapist, works with couples and individuals in private practice. And when you sit 2 people down in your office, and I guess they have to admit to you, we have a great, I'm sure this is what they say, we have a great relationship. Doesn't everybody lie right off the top?
No.
They don't?
No.
We have a disastrous
relationship. Well, they pay
relationship.
too much money to BS me on the top.
Okay, so we have problems in our relationship.
Yeah.
And we can't put a finger on it.
Yeah.
We're just bored. And there's no romance, and it's dull, and all of that, and he doesn't surprise me anymore. That's a big thing, isn't it? Surprise.
Well, it's interesting.
Somebody you can't quite figure out, And they always surprise you, not in a bad way,
Yeah.
in a great way. Never quite sure what they're up to. That's back to that intrigue.
Well, mystery does create interest and suspense. I remember an article I read in the Toronto Star years ago when I was going to university in Toronto, and it was by Ann Landers, and somebody wrote her this very scenario. We're bored, we're this, and her response I thought was brilliant. You need to bring some life into this dead, dull marriage. And it's as simple as making plans to do things with each other, but also spend time apart. For instance, I mentioned about Esther Perel's book, Mating in Captivity, an excellent book for couples whose marriage has gone dull, Mating in Captivity. She's a New York therapist. She said that one couple that she was counseling, they had dull, she was bored, she didn't know if she loved him anymore until he took her to a Christmas party at his organization. And she stood there and looked over and saw him talking to his colleagues. She saw him in a different environment instead of always at home. And she said she remembered why she fell in love with him.
Okay.
And I think I've mentioned this before. It's seeing each other in a different place and building life into it.
Sure.
How much mystery do you have with somebody you've lived with for 20 years? You know,
Not a lot.
Right. But,
well, surprises. But no one else can make you happy, bottom line.
That's right. That's right.
Only you can make you happy.
That's exactly right.
So if you're having a tough sled in the relationship, yes, you would have to look at it and say, he's too jealous or he's too controlling. Then I have to get a life. I have to make me happy. I have to take care of me. And it's not selfish.
No, it's not at all. I mean, most couples come to me because they want to try and be happy within the relationship. So if the relationship isn't working, they're not going to be happy. So you're right. Happiness is an individual thing, but let's not kid ourselves. If you're in a bad relationship, you'll feel unhappy in that relationship.
Sure, but whether you're married or you're dating, you know if somebody really adores you. And I like adore. You know, somebody just thinks you're swell.
Yeah, somebody who really digs you. Yeah, you can pick that up intuitively.
Yeah.
We're highly evolved to pick that stuff up, you know.
Sure we are. Trust your gut.
Yeah,
it just feels right. And,
that's right.
And the
That's right.
sparkle's there and this is.
But always remember, just because you feel that or you pick that up from him doesn't mean that's the right partner for you. So you need to listen to what they're saying about themselves, take it seriously.
Okay, so just because you have that energy going back and forth, your neurons are synapsing.
Absolutely, and in fact, studies have shown you are literally blind to that person. And that's why I say to couples or to individuals, believe what your boyfriend or girlfriend is saying about themselves. I'm not good with money, I have a gambling problem. Oh, well, I'll fix you up, I'll make it better for you. No, you believe him.
Sure, absolutely.
You know? Now, I don't want children at all, and he says, well, I want kids. Believe her. Don't think you're going to change your mind.
I'm not lying about that.
That's right.
And to fix a broken wing is really difficult. You
can't
maybe
do
if
that.
you're a therapist, you can help.
Yeah.
But ordinary people.
I really commend people who are dating who step up to the plate and name who they are and what they want out of that relationship, rather than kind of withhold and make people guess.
And what is romantic to you? Because to some people, romantic is he mows the lawn. You know?
Well, I haven't come across that one yet. Although another study showed that men who help out in the house get more sex.
I know that.
Yeah.
Well, I've read that.
Yeah.
But, you know, pick up the guitar and sing to me.
Yeah.
That's like in the movies.
Yeah. Romance is always about, you mentioned about the mystery and so forth. It's about the sense of being wooed, of feeling like you're important. It's also the element of connecting. And the reason why I think women tend to get bored more quickly after marriage is that females need to have emotional, mental connection, whereas men often don't need that as much, and they find their connection outside the marriage. It can be deadly. It can be deadly, and my father was Mr. Newspaper. Oh, yes. He'd come home from the golf course, go to his chair, get a scotch, and read the newspaper, and I thought, my poor mother. Yeah. Like, hello. Yeah. You know, and he might put the newspaper down to say, "What time's dinner, Dorothy?" And back the newspaper would go. And I thought, you're in a newspaper marriage, and how long has this been going on? And you hope there's some sizzle someplace else. But it's so amazing. We wouldn't do that to a friend. We have to find times where we do connect. I remember when I was first married to my wife, in the morning, she doesn't want to talk. She reads her newspaper, and I could not make connection. Okay. We had to wrestle with that and find a way in which, well, where can we make connection at the end of the day after work and so on. Right. So you have to figure out each other's habits. That's right. Like some people are not morning people, some people are not night people, some people like to have a cocktail, some people don't. And so you have to do the dance. That's right. You also have to negotiate when's the best time for us to have sex. because it's not always the best time when you come home from work that wife wants to be there having sex with you.
Right.
It may be.
So you really plan it?
Yeah, that's a great myth about marriage. The people
Really?
think that marriage has lost its sizzle and it's not interesting if you have to plan sex. If you're in a busy relationship and you're both busy, if you just let it go and say, we're not going to, it doesn't mean that, that at 8:03 on
Right.
Wednesday evening you have penetration.
No, after Dallas.
Exactly. It means that you set an evening aside in which romance can happen.
Okay, so you have a date night. I have friends who do that, and I know their sex life is hot. And they have date night.
Yeah.
And I'll say, do you want to go out for dinner? She said, no, we're having date night.
Good for her.
And sometimes he will do dinner or light candles
Yeah.
or maybe put rose petals in the tub. I
Who
doubt
knows?
that.
Who knows?
But that would work.
Yeah. But it would work. I'm also saying that you need to schedule at least a night a week where you can be intimate and romantic, and schedule that time
Sure.
in which that's the time that we'll do it.
Okay, so how much should a woman tell a man about how she really feels, and whether you're dating or not? You hear people say on dates, I just love you, but I'm not in love with you. What does the guy think
I've never
then?
understood that one.
No, I don't either. I just love you, but I love being around you and I love
Yeah.
everything about you, but I'm not in love with you.
Yeah.
Well, and you see, we all have a different aspect of
Yeah. My concern,
what love means or what love feels
my
like.
concern with that is that limerence, which is the feeling of being in love,
Right.
is often the first stage of falling in love and making that connection. Scott Peck says it's nature's way of kickstarting us out of our self-centeredness. If we judge a relationship based on that, we're going to get into real trouble. I mean, I still have those feelings of being in love with my wife, but I mean, it's changed radically since the first year of our being together. And so that will happen in long-term relationships. You must not judge the quality of your relationship by that. Boredom will often cause a woman or somebody to say, I don't feel like I'm in love with you anymore. It's because the emotional connection is faltering and they need to get reconnected.
Sure. As you know, many mistresses will tell you it's how he makes me feel when I'm with him. And many men who are having affairs will say it's how she makes me feel. It's how I feel when I'm with her.
Yeah.
It's not that she's more beautiful than my wife.
Yeah.
It's not.
What's happening
She's just
is
happy, and I love happy. And
exactly, but it's not real. So that you're seeing your mistress or your lover when that person's gone through the crappy part of the week and now they're free for you for that one night. I mean, just about anybody can pull that off. To see a lover twice a week. When you've got to live a life with another human being and work out those details, it takes some of the sizzle off of that.
Sure, but in a way you have to totally accept each other, as you suggested.
Absolutely.
She's crabby in the morning. You didn't say that.
Yeah.
But you said she doesn't like to speak in the morning much.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Her life.
It took me a while to get it, because I'm the talker, she's not the talker. So it took me a while to get used to that. But you've got to work that out.
When you have a talker and a not talker, somebody who needs quiet time,
Yeah.
and you're yappy. I've had that experience.
We never would have made it then.
Well, no, and you sort of think, gosh, he doesn't like me because he's been reading for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm in there trying to entertain him.
Yeah.
And nothing's working.
Well, I mean, and that's again, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So you sit down and you negotiate. Look, I need time to connect with you. If you're going to sit in front of the TV or read a newspaper all the time, I can't connect. So, but I will give you the time in which you do need to be
Sure, well,
alone.
you see some great couples. He says 2 words and she talks all the time,
Yeah.
or he talks all the time and she says 2 words, and they're happy because perhaps she doesn't want to talk and so happy he's talking.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. There are various ways of defining a marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
And in some relationships, you're both talking all the time.
That's right.
Wonder if those are better.
I don't know. I think it would drive me crazy. I couldn't stand to be on the other end of me.
Oh, that too, the mirror. Oh, here I am in spades.
Yes,
Oh, yes, that's all interesting.
But there are ways in which couples can rebuild their marriage, bring excitement in. It's not dour. It's not the end of the road. And if you're in real trouble, you need to come and get counseling. I strongly suggest John Gottman's book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work.
And start with yourself.
Absolutely. Well, that's where it has
You
to be.
bet.
Yeah.
Follow your dreams. Follow your bliss, as someone said.
Robert, that's right.
Go do it.
Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. David McKenzie, he's a counselor and a sex therapist. Coming up, the Pacific Institute of Culinary Arts is his work home. Stay with us for a lively chat with Chef Tim Allison about restaurants, food vendors, victuals, and vino.